Okay friends, to get started on our driver's side motor mount, the first thing we have to do is get all this out of the way. This is your car's computer/PCM. We want to be very careful with this. You can either disconnect the battery and then unclip these right here and remove it, of course, or you can just go ahead and unbolt it carefully, set it aside. Let's unbolt it and set it aside. With that out of the way, we're going to continue on to removing this bolt. Now we're going to come right here to this clamp, loosen this, remove this from the box. Typically, you're going to have a snorkel that comes down along here. Just go ahead and pop it off and then remove it. Ours is missing. Now at this point, we can lift this up and we're going to remove this hose back here. Get this out of the way. With that out of the way, let's continue on to removing the wires from this bracket because we need to remove the bracket from the area. Now let's get this breather tube out of the way. There's a little tab here I can grab onto, then you can disconnect it. Make sure you hang this someplace where you don't forget to reattach it. Now there's going to be two mounting nuts, one right here and one right there. Remove the pair. We're going to disconnect the battery. Let's start by disconnecting the negative terminal first and then the positive. Now typically you're going to have something that holds the battery down. That's going to be located right along the front here. Just go ahead and remove the bolt and then the piece that holds it. After that, we're going to go ahead and remove the battery. Now we need to remove the tray. You're going to find a whole bunch of mounting hardware. Go ahead and remove it all. Now we can come right down along here, remove this. Let's get this out of here. Now we're going to put a jack right underneath the front corner of our tranny pan. Definitely don't go in the center, and when you do it, just put a light amount of pressure. With the jack underneath the transmission, we're going to come right up here and we're going to remove our center bolt. Let's put a wrench back here to hold the nut. With that nice and loose, let's continue on to removing our three mounting bolts up along here. Now let's go ahead and pull these off. Just pay attention to the direction they go in. The flat area is going to go towards the body of the Jeep. Also, you have this ribbed area, that's going to go towards the mount. Now we have a nice clear view of our tranny mount. We're going to remove our mounting bolts. You're going to find one here, one on the other side of the mount, and then two right up here. For the lower ones, it's going to be easiest from underneath the Jeep. To remove the two bolts from underneath, you're going to need to remove your shield. Ours is missing, but you can picture what you're supposed to do. From underneath, we can go ahead and remove our two bolts. Now let's get back up top. To get out our upper bolts, you can either try to use a wrench, which might be a little bit difficult, or if you needed to, you could of course take this off as well. If you're going to take this off, there's just a couple little tabs. You can go ahead and pull this away like that, and then lift this up. There's three of them, two here, one right there. We'll slide this out of our way. Now we'll get this out of the way as well. You have the wiring coming over the top. Just go ahead and release that. With that out of the way, we can start removing our two bolts. There it is, friends. Now let's go ahead and clean down the mounting area. Okay, friends, now it's time to install our brand new transmission mount. Something you'll notice is I applied a thin amount of copper never sees on all of my bolt holes. This lined up. We'll start in all of our bolts for this, and then we'll snug them up. With both of these started, let's get back under the Jeep and start the other two. So now we're just going to bottom out these bolts and then we'll torque them to 55 foot-pounds. If you can't get a torque wrench in here, just go ahead and make sure they're nice and tight. Back up into the hood, let's snug these up and torque them as well. Let's torque these to 55 as well. Now let's put our rubber bushings on here. It's going to be time to put on this bracket. Just going to slide it right over. Start in your 3 bolts for the transmission. Torque these to 45 foot-pounds. Now we'll put in our transmission through bolt. It's going to go through here from the front to the rear. You're going to want to look down in this area and make sure you line up those holes. That's going to make it easiest to go ahead and put this bolt in. Grab your nut. Start it on there. Now we're just going to bottom this out and then torque it to 74 foot-pounds. Let's get the jack out of here. Get this bracket in here. Let's start putting in the mounting hardware. The bolt goes down here. Okay, with all of them started, let's go ahead and snug them up. Now we're going to put in the plastic piece. We're going to slide it over its ears along here, and of course along the back side there. Slide that down. Now we can take this, latch it in. Now I'll re-secure these wires. Let's re-secure our breather tube. Now let's get this back on here. You want to make sure your tabs line up. Slide this over. Make sure this is 100% secure. You don't want it jumping around while you're driving down the road. Let's get our battery tray back in. You're going to be able to see where all your mounting bolts are supposed to go. Here, 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 and there. And then of course you should have a nut as well. Slide that so the stud comes through. Put in all of your mounting bolts and then snug them up. Now let's get our air box back in here. If you look at the bottom of it, you're going to be able to find 3 pitons. And they're of course going to go into their mounting holes. Okay, I can see this is lined up. Back one's in there. Couple light bonks. Start that in there. Make sure that's completely bottomed out. Now we need to tighten this clamp. If you forget to tighten it, you could potentially get dirty air into your engine. Let's carefully grab our PCM, lay it down on here. Now we're going to put in our 3 mounting bolts. One thing to pay attention to is this corner. You need this wire. Get our breather hose back on there. There we are. Make sure that's completely bottomed out against your air box. Now let's get our battery back in here. You want to make sure that you have your positive on the driver's side and the negative over here. When you're reattaching your terminals, start with the positive. We'll snug that up and then we'll do the negative. Double check both of your terminal ends, make sure they're secured. After that, go ahead and put on your mount. All right, now of course most of these cars are going to have the little snorkel here. Go ahead and reattach that. After that, go ahead and take it for a road test. Make sure you don't have any funny sounds.